Okay, finally, to conclude.
Here
We've been working on this since before Shavuos.
since before the Tzimtzum.
Before the Tzimtzum.
There we go.
Are we live?
On Instagram also.
Okay, so one last time to conclude this awesome kuntras that we're working on since before Shavuos. Just once again, the idea of the secret of the negative mitzvah is that the source of the negative mitzvah comes from this level of ayin, that which is beyond grasp. The notion that the city of refuge represents a new level of Torah, it shows that in the future we will be able to contain that which is uncontainable. The whole notion of basically accessing the source of the negative mitzvah by being kolet that, right, and to bring it down in the Indian of Torah, which is able to be understood, this represents the futuristic Torah of Mashiach. So we said there's one mitzvah, that's the concept of Torah. In general, the way we'll access in action, right, the source of the negative mitzvahs is by adding a whole bunch more negative mitzvahs. Basically walking around in a state of negation, as everything is going to go according to Beis Shammai, and the only way we're going to actually activate that level of negation is by understanding it, but not by doing anything, because on the contrary, the deed will be to refrain from deed. Except in one deed, which is the whole poster child, as we've been saying, of Torah Hadasha. There's one mitzvah which instead of going from mutter to asur, will go from asur to mutter. And that is the shechting of the levias, the shorabor with the fin of the leviasan. In this case, that which was unedible, i.e. beyond our grasp, will suddenly become edible, which means we'll be able to internalize that which was beyond our grasp, right? So in the sense, that's kind of awesome. But then we asked ourselves the question, why specifically this mitzvah? In other words, there's many things that are asur that could have become mutter, right? Why is this the one mitzvah which was chosen to be the edible version of actually eating that which cannot be consumed, right? The rest of it, we're going to only access it by non-doing and only understanding the level of non-action. Here I can actually act out this level and internalize physically that which was previously asur. So we started to explain why this mitzvah was chosen. And it's because this mitzvah represents something very deep. It's the source of the secret of the Leviasan and the Shorabor. What are these things, right, that are suddenly going to be shifting the reality of the world?
I'm just having a question on what we just said.
Yeah.
I don't know, so right now we just said that it's going to become mutter to eat the boar, right? But wasn't the whole point to say that...
You asked this question yesterday. We answered it yesterday. See there.
I don't remember the answer.
Because when does it become mutter? In the days of Mashiach. You know, until the days of Mashiach, it's asur. It's not in the laws.
Okay, but then we said that the reason it becomes mutter is because it was always mutter. The chatchila that was inscribed in the laws of shechita.
Except we didn't know that until Mashiach comes and tells us. So the very reality of that comes to bear in the realms in the days of Mashiach, when suddenly it becomes mutter, right? And it was all we knew before was that it was going to be mutter, but we didn't understand really why and how that was all going to come about. So he's explaining why does it come about? Because what it represents is internalizing that which cannot be.
Okay, but there's no change in the laws of kashrut.
There's no change in the laws of kashrut.
When we say it becomes mutter, it sounds like there's a change in the laws of kashrut.
Because ultimately, it's in the laws that we know about kashrut until Mashiach is going to come and teach us the laws of Mashiach. It is asur, right? And that's what the very midrash says. It says, "Is this mutter shchita?" Right? Didn't we learn that you can't use a jagged edge? Didn't we learn that it can't be a knife falls on something from heaven and it has to be done by the agency of man? So really, it shouldn't be mutter. But what? There's going to be this renewal, this new Torah. Okay, thank God, we understand that because we have a new Torah, it's not going to change the laws of Torah, that Torah can't change. So we figured out a way that even though it's new, it's really not new. But that's sort of just to settle our nerves so we don't feel like someone's going to come along and change the Torah. It's not changed. But the reality is, the Torah we've never seen before. It's a halacha we've never been able to fulfill before. Just like the 3 cities of refuge, right? It's new, but it's not really new. But it's something that we weren't able to fulfill until Mashiach comes. Now, back to the point. Why is it that this is such a unique mitzvah that was chosen? The Leviyas and the Shur Habar. So please take it, whoever has the copies. We're kind of dwindling on copies here, but fortunately we're just about done. It's not it. No, okay. So take it from the page 193, the very last column, the very last paragraph on the first column. It says in the Drushay Chassidus the difference between the Leviyasan and the Shur Habar in Avodas HaAdam. What do these two things represent inside of our own service? And we said Leviyasan, Shemakomo B'yam, the Leviyasan who's in the sea, which is the Alma, the Iskasia, the hidden world. Mora Lavoda Baruchnias B'yuchad Yichudim Elyonim. It shows on a certain type of Avodas Hashem, which is much more spiritual. If you want to look at it, this is like what Rabbi was up to in the cave, right? What was he doing over there? There was no physical world to elevate, so he was doing all of his avodah in a ruchniistic way. Even, let's say, mitzvahs that he had to perform, which he couldn't make a sukkah, and he probably didn't have to fill it in there, etc., etc., etc. He was doing all these things just spiritually. Similar, let's say, to the avos, before they even had the Torah to do physically. There's a way to do all of the avodas Hashem by uniting into different levels of divine reality. The Shur Habar, which is it's in itself, right? Where would be without the Rashbi, the Arizal? This is like a sort of level of tzaddikim who are themselves called the Leviyasan because they can soar with their fin, so to speak, through the depths of the sea, which is really ruchnius, and find higher and higher levels of divinity. But there's also something called the Shur Habar inside of ourselves, which is the land creature, which refers to the Alma Yizgalia, the revealed world, which shows on the avoda of Gashmias in the refinement of the world. In other words, it's very nice he came out with the Zohar, Mamish, Baruch Hashem, thank you, but did you make a sukkah, right? Did you take the elements of creation and turn them into divine things? You were buried with your head out of the sand for 13 years. You didn't do much with the world. And part of Yiddishkeit is to take this lowly world and transform it into Elokus. It's a different avoda. You can't, right? There are two different things. This is part of our avoda, which is called the Shur Habar. Two different types of tzaddikim. Each one has what the other one doesn't have. The avoda ruchnius of the Leviyasan is in a way what we call ha'ala l'mayla. It's like going up, 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 up. Remember we talked this morning about the two facets of the Jewish star, right? It's like one triangle going up and one triangle going down. They represent two different aspects of Hashem's greatness, going infinitely into the Or Ein Sof, or getting down to the bottom of the barrel, which is also where you can find God, specifically in the Tachtoni, right? So each one has something where the Leviyasan is grasping higher and higher and higher lights, but it's lacking the shleim. It's called ratzo v'shov, right? You can run up in davening and leave the world behind and find spiritual levels of delight, which is great, but it lacks drawing down into the world where you can actually take a physical object, as we said, and elevate it. Whereas the avoda gashmias, right, when you are dealing with the world, you leave your tefillah and you get back into the world and you start making pandas, etc., right? You're busy elevating the reality or the AI. But often shalom shachalamata, so you're bringing godliness into the world. Aval ein ba mindless orders not only be but there you also lack because you're busy thinking about your taxes, right? You're by definition sort of schlepped away from very high level of divine insights. God says sheishis yamim tavod, go work for 6 days of the week. It's not Shabbos, right? You have to basically cut off your consciousness from a higher level. On one hand, good for you. You grab the Gashmias and you're elevating it, but you can't simultaneously say that you're sitting in Tzfat and YTD having mamash godly experiences, right? So each one has what the other one doesn't have. And the whole idea is that the ultimate, it's mamash what we're learning this morning. I love the Hashkacha Pratis, and every class we have is basically one continuous for bringing. But what did we learn this morning? Each one of those things is like an aspect of Hashem, right? The Or Ein Sof is the power of Hashem's infinity. The idea of the tzimtzum and making the world is even arguably a deeper power of Hashem manifesting His power to make something from nothing and but the true essence of God, the Ata from the morning class, is when you have both at the same time. So the ultimate revelation is when you're going to have infinite and finite, spiritual and physical, somehow, which are opposites, residing as one.
Isn't that by uplifting the physical now, by working with the way that Hashem wants you to work, and by thinking about Torah while you're working and doing all that? Wouldn't that be
To a certain degree, you can think about Torah while you're working, but you can think about Torah a lot more when you're not working, right? So we're saying it's great when you're thinking about Torah while you're working. That's what differentiates you from a Gentile, right? He's just working. He's part of the world. You're sneaking a little bit of Kedusha into there. It says, why does Yaakov go to get the bracha from his father Yitzchak dressed in the garments of Esav? Right? You know the story? Because it's like a metaphor. We look like Esav on the outside. We go and do our little daily work, but we're really sneaking around. Yaakov is called a trickster. Because a Jew is called a trickster. It looks like you're doing your taxes. When you get down to the bottom, you say, "Oh, ein od bilvado." Right? Like this, all there is God. Right? So this is this, but it's not the same as sitting in YTD, getting your infinity dose for the day. Right? You're sneaking a little bit in, but that's the difference. We're not called Yaakov on Shabbos. We're called Yisrael. Yaakov is Yud Akef. Right? Yaakov's name is going down to the heel. Spell it with Yud Akev. Yisrael is the letters of what? Li Rosh. So on Shabbos, we don't pretend to be like Esav. We're like, work ain't going to work on Saturday. Right? We're not interested in that whole worldliness. So, but they're opposites, right? Either you're Shabbos, you're Yisrael, or you're Yaakov. You're either 6 days or you're Shabbos. But the Mashiach is called the 8th, right? What about if I had Shabbos on the weekday Mamish, and the weekday on Shabbos Mamish, and there's no distinction between them because God is both at the same time? That's Mashiach, right? And this is Gam lemate yumshachu v'yizgalu oros el hanaylim yoser. Even down in when you're busy doing your taxes, you're not just schlepping in a little bit of like kavana of elokus. You're mamish in the middle of the cave of Rabbi Shimon with the power of the Zohar at the same exact time. Why should there have to be a distinction? And how does this work? This is the secret of the shechita, right? The Leviathan shechs, which means he elevates. Ein v'shachat elev mashach. We know that shechting means to elevate. The shur habor. This shur habor, who's kind of stuck in his little weekday world, sneaking godliness in, that's before he gets shechted by the Leviathan. Before he gets elevated into being able to bring the highest lights into the lowest places. We can bring the highest lights, which is like the level of Leviathan, down into the lowest of all levels without affecting them by the Tzimtzum, which is the Shor Habor. Cool, right? Hainu sheshchita Shor Habor hi tochen sacha kol de klal lus ma'aseinu v'avodaseinu b'bira olam, which means, remember we learned this morning, you can bring into the kav, you can go and like connect yourself to the Or Ein Sof. Remember that from the morning class, whoever was there? Yeah. But we said, but you need to do it through avoda. Right? In other words, when Hashem creates the world, he brings like a little bit of light after the darkness, but to bring the infinite light back after the darkness, that you have to do avoda. Right? You have to draw from the mamash Or Ein Sof into this world, it takes avoda. So guess what? After 6,000 years of avoda, which is basically the 6 days of the week, we finish the avoda. So the idea of the shechita of the Shur Habor is the symbol of the finishing of the avoda. Now this earthly avoda can be shechted and brought up into the state where you can fit the entire library of Alexandria in your pocket. Oh, you can do that already, right? Because this is the idea. We've like elevated the materialism of the world that it can contain everything inside the whole world in one spot, like literally. Right? This was like a dream of a consciousness that would one day be messianic. We're sitting with it all around us, and we were like wondering, scratching our head, where's Mashiach? When's he going to come? Right? So this idea of the elevation of the world, you can have the highest lights in the lowest places, it represents the completion of our work. Ma'aseinu v'avodaseinu b'bira olam, our work in refinement of the world. Therefore, it will be revealed the full purpose of our avoda, which is that even in Yanim Hachi Nailim the Hasagas Ashlila, which means that even the highest levels, which is called the hidden knowledge, which cannot even be contained by the world, by a man, which is the Leviathan, they themselves will be able to be drawn down in a way of being graspable. Because before, let's say the matter was not able to hold an entire library in your pocket. It just didn't work like that. We didn't like beat the skins enough to enable them to have a Sefer Torah written on them. But Yidden have been schlepping and doing mitzvahs for a long time, and we changed the nature of the matter of the world, that hidden levels of reality can now sit inside of the materialism of the world. It didn't used to be like that. And think about it, there were stages before the flood. There couldn't even be an Avram Avinu in the world. We had to mamish decimate the whole world with a flood of a mikvah, and it rose up a little bit. And this is also what was called the slavery of Mitzrayim. This is what was called the slavery of the Holocaust. This is what's called October 7th. Every damaging purification of this world brings the materialism to a state of negation, which then allows infinity to sit in that place. The level of the Shammai level of negation can actually be held in the lowest world, which is the idea of the Shur Habor into the Alma D'Isgalia, into the revealed world. And therefore, this becomes the symbolic mitzvah of all of the future. Right? All of a sudden, the eating of the Shur Habor with the shechting of the Leviathan will become mutter. Meaning, right, that which is usher and unable to be internalized into this world, the secrets of the fish, will be contained on dry land. This whole thing could have happened at the splitting of the sea, right? They walked through the sea on dry land. That was like a little hint of what would be in the future, that we would be able to contain the sea in the midst of the dry land.
So who checks Leviathan?
You. No, the Leviathan gets gored with the horns of the Shur Habor. They kill each other simultaneously.
So it uplifts spirituality with physical.
So it basically takes the Leviathan down, right? Leviathan brings him up, and he brings Leviathan down. How does this all happen? Through Torah, Hadasha, Me'ititetzei. Chiddush Torah, Me'ititetzei. A new Torah is going to come out, right? It's called Chabad Chassidus, which means Hagam Hadarga Hachi Nailis B'Torah, the very highest level of the Torah, called Mi'iti, from me, says God. It will come out, which means it's not able to be revealed in these times. Shayach Ba'arak Hasagas HaShlila Bilvad, we're only able to sort of understand it by negation. Nonetheless, Mi'iti Teitzeh, it will actually come out and be edible. And again, we're not quite there. We're in this kind of gray zone. You know, when it comes to Shabbos, not everybody takes in Shabbos at the same time. You know, even there's cities, for example, Jerusalem takes in Shabbos 40 minutes before Shkia. Tzfat takes in Shabbos 30 minutes before Shkia. The rest of the world, 18 minutes before Shkia. If you're a holy lady, you can take in Shabbos an hour and a half before Shkia. In other words, entering into this zone, when is it going to be that the Rov Chochmah Yisrael hold like Beis Shammai? Whenever they wake up and decide to. Right? The information is sitting there. It's a matter of colette. You have to be open to it. So that therefore we don't see that it's taken over the Rov, but it's getting close. And that's the job of each and every single one of us. The Rebbe said that you are a shliach. You must bring this information into another stream. Let's go for, what else we got? We got 5-6 streams going. Everybody's got to have 5-6 streams just for getting started. You have to bring it all down into a graspable knowledge. And that's what it says here. This is the last line, but it's like you see how the Rebbe learns all this out of 2 lines of the Rambam. Look at this. Kol Yisrael yu chachamim gedolim. It says, the end of the Rambam, where he concludes the laws of Mashiach, he says these words. All the Jewish people will be chachamim gedolim, yodim. They will know, in other words, have graspable knowledge, Devarim astumim, hidden things. V'yasigu, and they will grasp what? Das Boram, the knowledge called Das Elyon. In other words, how can you grasp that which can't be grasped? How can you have knowledge of hidden things which can't be known? Because he's describing the words of Mashiach. Kafi koach Adam, and all that is going to be in accordance with the power of man. In other words, in this lowly place of the Shur Habor, we're going to grasp the secrets. Rambam is hinting to all this in a line. And that's what it says. How about the last line of the Rambam? Malei haaretz, the world, which is the Alma D'Isgalia, will be filled day as Hashem, will be filled with the knowledge of God, kamayim liyam mechasim, like water, which is the hidden world, fills the sea. So he's saying the earth will be filled with the sea knowledge, right? Take of me ad mamash l'chaim v'libracha. All right, wow, that was the scene over there. We have another 10 minutes before you stop it. Should we? Let's start another one. We'll just get our appetite wet. By the way, this one is no easier and no shorter, but it is a continuation. And honestly, the fact that we just went through and know this is going to make us have like a very, very enjoyable ride for this next kuntras. The Rebbe, what we're learning right now is our deep philosophical discussions on the general concept of ideas in Torah, right? Sometimes we use this half an hour to learn a nice idea about Korach or to learn a nice idea about Chukas, and maybe we'll go back to that depending on your stamina. But right now we've been spending a lot of time with these giant philosophical treatises that the Rebbe brought out on larger inyanim. In any case, let's just start off a little bit. This is called Hilchos Shel Torah, or Halacha Shel Torah, Shebal Peh She'enon Betelus Liolam. That the oral Torah will never ever be negated. Never be...
Forgotten.
What's that? Forgotten, negated. And he says, now that we just sort of made a little finale on the Rambam ourselves, this whole thing, the Rebbe gave over as a Siyum HaRambam, right? As it's known, the Rebbe instituted that we should read the Rambam every day, either 3 chapters or 1 chapter, or even Sefer HaMitzvahs, so that we're constantly finishing the Rambam every year or every 3 years. And so at one such occasion, the Siyum HaRambam, the Rebbe gave over this kuntras. Fine. L'chaim. Say it again. This is the Rebbe started the daily Rambam, yeah.
Turn off the camera when you're taking Shabbos.
All right. But in the Shabbos of the future, it'll be Shabbos and weekday at the same time. Where do we see already something like this? Then you have Shemitah. Shemitah and Yovel, it's called Shabbos LaHashem. But you can do Malacha. So there's a Shabbos you can do Malacha on. It says that's for there we learned that the Shemitah and the Yovel is higher than the Shabbos. You might think that it's not, you might take it lightly and think it's not as high as Mamash Shabbos Bereshis, the Shabbos of the week, because you can do Malacha. Adrabah. It's called Shabbat Shabbaton. You can even do Malacha on such a Shabbos because because of this reason that we said. Okay. We're not quite there yet. Behakdamaso lechiburo kosev Rambam. Fine. So in the before you even get to the beginning of the Rambam, in the preface to the Rambam, which is itself an awesome work, right? If anyone has not read that, you have to do it immediately, right? The introduction of the Rambam basically explains our entire religion in like 5 pages. You got to read that. I'm serious. Find it and read it. So in this Hakdama, in this preface, he says, quote, Kol ha-mitzvah shenitnu lanu leMoshe b'Sinai b'Perusha nitnu. All the mitzvahs that Moshe gave us at Sinai, they were given along with their explanation, right? Shenemar. How do we know? There's a verse from Parshas Mishpatim which hints to this. It says, Ve'etna lecha es luchos ha'evin v'haTorah v'hamitzvah. So God says, I'm giving to you these stone tablets, this Torah, and this mitzvah. What does he talk? What are all those 3 different things? The stone tablets are the 10 commandments. Torah, zu Torah shebeksav. The Torah in that statement is the 5 books of Moses, the written Torah. And the mitzvah, says Rambam, zu perusha. This is that he gave also the explanation of those mitzvahs orally. And that all came from Har Sinai. Torah Shabal Peh. Umivar Baruch HaSeder Mesiras HaTorah Shabal Peh Uperusha Agdei Gedol Yisrael Midor Lador Ad Lizmanu. And if you look over there, the Rambam explains literally name by name, 40 generations, the rabbi and their beis din who passed the Torah down from generation to generation until his times. He ends it at Rav Ashi and Ravina, who concluded the Gemara. Umasayim, and there he finishes, Ra'isi lechaber devarim hamizbarim Rambam speaks in the first person. It's kind of cool. He says, I saw to it to put together these matters in a clear way. Binyan ha'asar v'amuter hatami v'atar, that which is prohibited and permissible, impure and pure, in shardini HaTorah, with all the laws of the Torah, agitate Torah Shabal Peh, kula sedura b'fi hakol. So the entire thing that we just called mitzvah, which is the Torah Shabal Peh, here's a book, says the Rambam, which lays it all out for you. So it should be organized in everybody's mouth, below kushia, below piruk, without getting into arguments and confusions, without being able to pull it apart and be confused. And he calls it halachas, right? One halach after the next, just every single aspect of the oral Torah delivered on a silver platter. And then he says something extremely controversial, which caused actually even other great rabbis of his time to burn his books publicly. Yes. And they did tshuva for that, and then they actually wrote the book of tshuva. Rabbeinu Yonah wrote the book of tshuva for doing that. Right? We now read this every Erev Rosh Hashanah to know what tshuva is. Right? Sharei tshuva. But the idea is that why was it so controversial? Because he literally said that I'm doing this so a person can have shelo yeh adam tzrich lechibur acher. You don't need any other book in the world. B'din midina Yisrael, from any of the laws of any other books of Jews that ever wrote. Eliyechibur zeh mekabetz the Torah shabal peh kuda. This book has all the laws of the Torah in it. Finished. You put all the other books away. Leficha karasi shem chibur zeh Mishnah Torah. Therefore, I called this book Mishnah Torah, which means second to the Torah. Lefisha adam korer b'Torah shebekasav techila, because a person can just read the Chumash, and afterwards he can read this book, and you'll know the entire Torah Shabal Peh, and he does not need to read any other book in between. Rambam was not joking around. All right, we'll hold here, gentlemen. Shikoyach. Don't need any other book. If you ask the Rambam, done.